Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Travel with Terri podcast, featuring Terri Guthrie, a Dallas, Texas-based travel journalist who loves to talk about luxury family vacations, regional food and culture, national parks, historic attractions, and so much more. So, all right, we are still on location in Louisiana with Ron and Terri Guthrie here on the Travel with Terri podcast. And today they're in Lafayette, but they've been exploring. They started out, going west from New Orleans, now heading towards Lafayette, where they are today. But they did visit 3 exceptional plantations full of history, and also went to the Great River Road Museum. So we're going to kind of follow their pathway. And I think this is all the river parishes and also known as the River Road region, which is very exciting to chat about. So Terri, welcome back. How are you doing?
Thank you, Lisa. Well, I'm just fine. I have had the best time, and the River Road parishes are just something so special that I am excited to discover. And it goes on into Ascension Parish as well, that's where all these beautiful historical plantations are.
So we're talking about Jefferson Parish as well, right? As part of this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And
So all of this is easy to get to out of New Orleans, right? Easy.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's so easy, and it just kind of winds with the river, and it's a place where, like the mighty Mississippi, it's not just a river, it's the lifeblood of this historic land, just winding its way from Baton Rouge to New Orleans and beyond. And out here, it's like there's so many stories that teach us as much as haunt us.
I was going to ask you that. So let's start with the Destrehan Plantation. You look at these grand buildings, but they really do preserve the history of everyone that was connected to a plantation, right? So people should know that, and you can take tours, but it looks like a beautiful piece of land, not just the estate.
Right, right. Well, we took a tour, which I would highly suggest because you get these very educated historical interpreters. His name was Jim, was fantastic. And so many of them are, they have they're history majors and really bring history to life as they're walking you through the places. But Destrehan is the one that is the closest to New Orleans. Just know that. And it's on the National Register of Historic Places. But it's the oldest documented plantation still surviving in the Mississippi River Valley, dating back to 1787.
Wow. This is also, when we talk about Louisiana, we think about, the French culture, the indigenous people, the Spanish, right? African American. But then this also, again, has German history in there too, which this is all surprising and new for me. I had no clue the German history touched into this region.
Right. Yes, it does. I mean, this is quite a melting pot. It absolutely is. And it's just as diverse as their gumbo here, I should say.
Oh, well put, yeah.
But Destrehan is one of the things that makes it stand out, that makes it so unique, is that this big, huge plantation home the builder was actually a free man of color. And he built this house with only 7 enslaved men. I mean, they did everything from making the bricks. They did everything. And that is quite a unique story in itself. And there's a lot about this gentleman and what he accomplished there. And yeah, I thought that was one of the real interesting side notes. Also, it started as an indigo plantation, which a lot of the plantations along the Mississippi River, that's what they were doing first. They were growing this plant to have that blue dye that everyone wanted. That, for whatever reason, was not panning out to be such a success. And that's when they switched over to sugarcane. And sugarcane really just took over. And Destrehan is known to be one of the largest sugarcane plantations in the South.
Wow. So everyone, you can go to destrehanplantation.org. in the episode notes. As always, we love to give you the links so you can plan your visit. And we have links for the tourist commission so you can plan your visit for hotels, restaurants, all that good stuff and activities. You know you're going to go on a swamp tour when you're out there, right? Because you got
Oh,
to.
yeah.
You got to go out in the swamps when you go to Louisiana. So everything is linked in the episode notes, as well as the plantations that we're going to talk about and the museum. So this is like the big one that you go to and one of the oldest ones. And they even have an indigo cafe if you get hungry, right? So that's good. Get food
Yes,
at the
yes.
plantation.
Yes, it's the setting is just beautiful, and it's just a walk through history. There's a lot, you could spend a day there pretty much at all of these plantations we're going to talk about. Just I would suggest highly to give yourself plenty of time to really soak it in, and you go through with your tour guide and then go back and just really look at everything at your own leisure, because there's so much to see and so much to learn.
And with this, I wanted to ask, all these plantations, did you feel a little, ghostly vibe? Do you think there's spirits that live in these
Yes.
old
Oh,
lady
yeah.
houses, these lady
Yeah.
plantations?
Well, I know Destrehan. I don't know about the others, but Destrehan actually has a ghost tour. And so I'm sure that's a lot of fun. But yeah, there's all that going on, because you can just imagine all the crazy things and bad things and scary things that happen, throughout the centuries there.
Wow. And hey,
Yeah.
everybody, you can stay there. I was on their website. They have cottages. You can sleep there. That's cool. And they have a lot of events. I know that right now, with the Halloween coming up and everything, they're definitely doing the ghost tours, but they have all kinds of festivals and wow, there's a lot going on. And I think the
Right.
events are fun for getting kids involved to understand history too.
Absolutely. These are all great field trips, I would say, very, very educational. And, like I said before, a lot of it's good and a lot of it's bad, but
Hmm.
it's a lot of it's heart wrenching, but
Yeah.
it's our history and it's important for us to learn.
And not repeat. We don't want
Exactly.
to
And not
repeat the
repeat.
negative. Yeah, we want to take care of people and all that good stuff. Moving on to Oak Alley Plantation, it also has an inn and a restaurant on site. I think this is a very popular. I think it's one of the first plantations you hear of about going out in that area.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Oak Alley
yeah.
is absolutely iconic. I mean, I'm sure when a lot of people think of plantations in their mind, if they've seen pictures of one as maybe of Oak Alley, it may be, in my opinion, the most beautiful, because it has those 28 oaks that just line this walkway up to the plantation house. That is absolutely beautiful. Well, it's more than beautiful, Lisa. It's absolutely breathtaking. Ron and I were out there early in the morning. We got to spend the night there. They
Oh,
do have
cool.
these cottages that are gorgeous. And so we stayed there and enjoyed that so much. And we had the opportunity then to get up early before the tourists arrived and go out there and just walk around on the grounds. And I told someone yesterday, it was almost like a spiritual experience. Just the grandeur of those century old oak trees with those massive long limbs that are draping all the way down to the ground, and just this plantation home in the background. Oak Alley, their plantation home is just especially beautiful, I think. And just out there with the birds chirping and on the banks of the Mississippi River, just the sights and the smells and what you could hear and just what you're visually seeing. It was a really, really special moment. I don't think we will ever forget just walking around on those grounds early in the morning. Then Ron got to fly his drone and do some drone photography there as well. And we both were just like, wow, it was magical. It absolutely
Mm.
was.
And it's a National Historic Landmark, which is something important to
Yes,
recognize
ma'am.
as
It
well.
is
But
sure is.
they have tours, and they again also share the sad side of history. I know I was looking at some of their exhibits, like slavery at Oak Alley, the big house, the East and West Gardens, a lot of different experiences to have. But I'm so glad that they are still keeping that interpretive history so that we again learn from all of this. But it's isn't it wild, like, to have that kind of history and also beauty at the same time? You know, that's part of that experience where
Yes.
you have to
And
balance that emotionally in some way, but it
exactly.
yeah.
Yes. But it just Oak Alley really has an interesting background too, because it's really served like many purposes. Of course, it was a sugar plantation, it was a rice farm, a chicken farm, a cattle ranch, and a country home. And this is over the time, over the 200 years. And the men and women who walk through the grounds there are French Creole, African, Portuguese, German, Irish, Italian, American. So, they were agricultural tycoons, sugar planters, slaves, immigration laborers, and real estate speculators. So that's what a lot of them, throughout the time and years, that is what has happened to so many of these, and many of these plantations actually just sit vacant for years
Wow.
as well. And so
Wow.
I'm glad that they are preserved now. Like Oak Alley is actually owned and operated by the Oak Alley Foundation. The plantation home itself is, and I know Destrehan also has a similar one, but Houmas House is a different story.
Yeah, so Houmas House. So that's a Greek revival mansion, right? That I was reading about from the 1840s.
Yes, uh-huh, and it is, owned privately by a man named Kevin Kelly, who we got to meet, and he actually took us around the grounds, and Ron's gonna talk about Houmas House because it's much more than, just the home. It's called the Sugar Palace, and it's the crown jewel of Louisiana's Great River Road. That's what they say, but it's basically the history of the Great River Road, along the Mississippi, and, he
They have
has a
ghosts.
yes. They have ghosts, and they have gardens, and they have this incredible new museum, and this is one of the stops too with the Viking cruises that go up the Mississippi River. But Ron will tell you a little bit about this. He was really, really impressed with the River Road Museum, and I'll just have to say also what got this on my radar for me is for my sister and brother-in-law up in Shreveport, Becky and Brian. They went to Houmas House for their anniversary recently and just loved it. And she was like, Terri, you have got to put this on your list. This place is remarkable. You would love it. It's more than just a house. Like I said, the property is huge. There is so much on it, and it is certainly a day's event. And I would absolutely recommend staying in one of their cottages. They have numerous cottages as well, and they are gorgeous. You would think you were inside the plantation home itself. They're just beautifully appointed and decorated.
Yeah, I was going to say too that it's also a popular location for movies and film, and Louisiana has incredible history when it comes to film. It started with Tarzan, really, Tarzan coming, and then Louisiana really got into becoming a destination for filmmakers, and so many have been made. Like Steel Magnolias is up the road in Natchitoches, Louisiana. New Orleans, of course, is huge in film, but this is definitely one of those places. Top Chef has been filmed there. The Green Book. It's been going for a long time. So that's part of, I think a lot of people do travel for movie locations. So that's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
cool too. Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's just so scenic and beautiful, and then there's just no place on earth that has these live oak trees with the hanging Spanish moss. I mean, that's just the icing on the cake. Oh my gosh.
Uh,
I could just sit there and look at those trees all day long. They're just majestic and mystical.
So people can go there, have a wedding, then be on the movie locations, enjoy the gardens, tour the plantation. But the actual museum that we're going to talk about with Ron is the Great River Road Museum. That's actually at Houmas House, right? Am I getting this right?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they have a big building that you first enter into, and that's where the museum is and one of their restaurants. They have multiple restaurants, and they have a bar that I love called the Turtle Bar.
Oh,
And you don't have to be a guest, on the property to go to one of the restaurants or the bar, or I'm certainly not the museum. Anybody and everyone is welcome to come and see this place and explore, because there's a lot to explore and experience. It's fantastic, actually.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear how Ron enjoyed the museum.
Yeah, so I'm going to pass it on to Ron and let him tell you about the Great River Road Museum.
Hi,
Well,
Lisa.
hey, Ron, it's got a captain's wheel right there on its website, greatriverroadmuseum.org. So I thought you'd like this because it's another form of transportation. Since, everyone, as you may know, Ron is a retired Top Gun fighter jet. I was going to say fighter jet. He'll nail you from the sky. You don't want that. But it was also a pilot as well. So going internationally. So I kind of feel like this is a different kind of transportation and steering power, right? When it comes to river roads, I love that they even say river road because we forget rivers are roads, right? They just float your boat.
They are absolutely roads, and of course, it is the engine of that area. It's why everything exists there. I was going to read you something. I don't normally like to read brochures, but this really kind of sums up the whole area. It says the culture, commerce, folklore, and music were a fusion of all the foreign countries that discovered and developed this new territory. So they have quite a history of all these different nations who at one time wielded power in this area. They would get superseded, another one would come in, but the culture became a fusion of all of them instead of just dominated by the latest one in power. And so it's a unique blend of all these countries that provide the Cajun area its unique charm. And the River Road Museum, really Houmas House, the current Houmas House, is the story of an eccentric millionaire named Kevin Kelly from New Orleans who bought Houmas House and said, I really want to show the grandeur of the South, and I want it to be granular. I want it to be authentic. I want it to be truthful. It's not going to be politically correct. It's not going to be sugar-coated. It's going to be, this is the way it is. He hired historians. The Great River Road Museum, it's over 35,000 square feet, and it tells the stories unedited. We're not going to interpret. We're not going to tell you what to think about what happened. We're just going to tell you what happened and the way things really were. And it is such an authentic. When I was going through it, I'm like, this is breathtakingly authentic. It is not glossed over. There's no Hollywood version of anything. This is the way it was there in all of its beauty and all of its ugliness. It is just, we're just going to straight up tell the story as it happened. And he released these historians to actually tell the story. And well researched, well documented. And that's his idea, is to restore the impressions of the South and of this area to what they really were. Over the years, they've been romanticized. They've been through Hollywood movies. Most of what we see and believe weren't really based on facts. They were based on something that filmed well. And so he tells the story. Get ready for it. I mean, you could spend a day in this museum. It's so well documented and so factual.
Well, I'm fascinated about it because of the wars that happen along the river. And one of them, to me, one of the most fascinating battles that happen in this country is the Battle of New Orleans, because whatever happened in New Orleans also shapes what happened in the country, right? And it was such an interesting time, and how, Andrew Jackson was so hated for a lot of good reasons, actually. But at that time, if it wasn't for him, we would have lost New Orleans. And when the British and the Scottish coming in, and how, Native American tribes came from all over, as far away from as Tennessee and Kentucky, to actually fight for New Orleans, to be New Orleans. And I find that whole history fascinating to me. And so I would want to go there because I know the river played such a big role in these wars and battles that happened all along there. I mean, it's not just the Battle of New Orleans. There were other things going on.
Absolutely. Whoever controlled New Orleans controlled access to the river, controlled access to the country. When you take the Mississippi River out, you think of all the ports that are north of the Mississippi River. It branches out through the entire center of the country. All commerce at that time, roads weren't like they are today, obviously. There were very few roads. They were poorly maintained. It was slow. It was, horse-drawn. But that river was exactly like it is today. It still had plentiful free access, easy to transport large volumes of goods. So whoever controlled that river controlled the country.
And there were also, which is interesting for people to note, is there were also African American Confederate soldiers, which people may not realize that, but there were at that time, back in looking around the 1860s, I think that happened. And that would be something that people would not really know all the time. That actually even there's some history in Oklahoma during the Civil War where there were African Americans and Native Americans that stood together as part of the Confederate side, which is interesting. So there's some of that history that your eyebrows go, what, why, how, but that's what's interesting about this museum. And even if you go on their website, I encourage people to go to greatriverroadmuseum.org. You're going to see things that make your eyebrows go up for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, he tells the story completely unedited. There were freed African Americans. There were African American slave owners there. The conditions of the slaves, from household staff who were treated better, down to people who worked on the grounds, down to field laborers who were treated the worst. The horror of that, the being sold and separated from family members. He doesn't pull any punches when he tells the story. It's just truthful, and that's the way it was. And you're going to learn a lot of things that you never really knew were true, but it's well documented. He released the historians and documented everything. So it's a little bit different story maybe than we've heard, through movies and media outlets.
And this is all between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, these river roads, right? For people to get a geographic idea of where we've been talking about today. It's kind of that in-between part with the river.
Yes, and I'll just say that Houmas House, it's in Ascension County. And I was going to tell you, Lisa, just to give you an idea of how huge this museum is also, because we were obviously blown away. They probably have like 15 to 18,000 different items and artifacts in this museum. It's not little, it's huge. And Mr. Kevin told me as we were in the golf cart riding around, it was so much fun riding around with him, the owner. He was telling me that actually everything in that museum is on a rolling display. So technically they can roll everything out of this big space and use it for an event. And I thought that was so innovative. I've never heard of anything like that. So it can be the museum with all of the museum items and artifacts in it, or it can be an event space as well. But it's absolutely massive and so intriguing and educational.
Do you want to tell you all, as we're having this conversation, I looked up my Jefferson Highway map, and the Jefferson Highway was created in 1915 by Mr. Meredith, who was the editor of Better Homes and Garden magazine out in Des Moines, Iowa. And he created this route and got everyone together in this corridor of communities that went between Winnipeg and New Orleans. And this highway, which we've talked about before, Terri, is incredible. It goes through places that in Oklahoma, Texas, but it goes from Winnipeg all the way down to New Orleans. And it's called the Palms to Pines Highway. And I am just blown away. You just did the Jefferson Highway part between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. The river roads that is the Jefferson Highway in that portion.
Wow.
Like 100%.
Well, that is so cool.
Yes, Vacherie. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing this correctly.
Vacherie.
We talked about Spuddy from the Cajun Cooking Experience. That is on the Jefferson Highway. Destrehan is on the Jefferson Highway. This is so cool. So this is part of history that is coming back to life, and it's a resurgence of this very first North American highway that we have, which is older than Route 66, which celebrates its centennial in 2026. Isn't this exciting? Just a different part of history that you got to go on, and you didn't know you were on the Jefferson Highway, but you were. This is so cool.
But I can tell you, this would be the ultimate road trip to drive the Jefferson Highway through the River Road area and just, follow along the Mississippi River there. It was just fascinating to me. You're just like, I guess, maybe it's obvious to some people, but, just wondering why are all these plantations, just lined up along the river? What is the common denominator? But basically, like we're talking about, the Mississippi River just provided such great means of transportation and access to the local and regional and world markets. And it was so instrumental in bringing great prosperity to the lands, really from New Orleans all the way up to Natchez. And it's just one of the greatest concentrations of wealth and the largest number of millionaires in North America that could be found during that time. That's why there is just so many beautiful plantation homes and the importance of the architecture. And that's all you'll see. I mean, that's one of the many, many things you'll see when you are driving down the Jefferson Highway, the Great River Roads. And that's why it is so phenomenally beautiful drive. And of course, my favorite, those live oak trees with the Spanish moss. I mean,
Oh my
I can't
gosh,
think
yeah.
of a more beautiful drive in the,
It's romantic.
down the South. Oh, yeah. Oh, very romantic.
Yeah. I think that's part of why the movies, really moved out to Louisiana. And they're still making a lot of movies in Louisiana. So check that out, everybody. So yeah, a good place to do it. And they take care of you with, tax benefits and all kinds of stuff. So check that out. But oh my gosh. And you must have been eating well, riding these river roads and staying at the plantations, visiting the museum. Excited for our next conversation on Lafayette. So everyone, stay tuned. Travel with Terri podcast happens every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central Time. We can't wait for more adventures with Terri and Ron. So you guys enjoy Lafayette. And has anybody yelled "aye" yet on the show with you, or on your tours or anything like that?
I haven't heard that yet, but I was going to tell you in a little bit here, we're about to have a mint julep, so we'll be thinking about you.
At 9 in the morning, it sounds like I need to get to Louisiana. All right. Well, thanks so much, Terri and Ron. You guys enjoy the rest of your adventures. And don't forget to take some Tabasco sauce home with you. Tabasco is created right there in Lafayette, Louisiana on Avery Island. So, which is like a world staple. So I always love to get that food culture when we travel. It's like, wow, you're going where Tabasco is.
Oh, yeah.
I would go just for that.
This place is so, like I said, culturally rich, and the cuisine here rules the world down here. I'm telling you, it is. I've just never been into a place that just loves and embraces their food, and with the history and the background of it is just all intertwined, and it's such a fascinating and fun place to visit.
I love it. I love it. Well, you guys take care. Everyone keep up with Terri at travelwithterri.net. And of course, stay tuned. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening and check out the episode notes for those links so you can plan your adventures on the river roads of Louisiana.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Travel with Terri podcast. You can follow Terri's adventures at travelwithterri.net. And that's Terri with an I, not a Y. Follow us here at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels!